Isolation. The sterile environment of Research Station Epsilon 9 had been Kel'Era's home for nearly 2 standard years. Floating in the void between the Arcturus system and the frontier of known space, it was the perfect place for someone who couldn't touch another living being without killing them. Kel'Era moved through her laboratory with practiced grace, her slender form encased in a specialized containment suit that kept her deadly skin secretions from contaminating the environment. Her species, the Nexeri, were renowned throughout the galaxy for 2 things: their brilliant scientific minds and the lethal neurotoxin that seeped continuously from their epidermis. Even a momentary brush against unprotected skin would cause paralysis in most species. Prolonged contact meant certain death. "Systems check complete, Dr. Kel'Era," announced the station's eye. "All containment protocols functioning at optimal levels." "Thank you, Araya," Kel'Era replied, her voice musical despite the translator that converted her native harmonic speech patterns into standard galactic common. "Any updates on the ion storm?" "The storm has intensified by 27%. Estimated duration now stands at 48 standard hours." Kel'Era's iridescent eyes narrowed slightly. The tendrils that framed her face, evolutionary remnants from her aquatic ancestors, rippled with concern. Ion storms were unpredictable in this sector, but this one had appeared without warning and grown at an alarming rate. She moved to the observation deck, gazing out at the swirling purple and blue energy discharges illuminating the darkness of space. The storm was beautiful in its destructive power, reminding her of the oceans of her homeworld, a place she hadn't seen in over a decade. The Nexeri were not a numerous species. Their condition made reproduction complex and dangerous, and their society was structured around minimizing physical contact. From birth, they were taught precise control and spatial awareness, but no amount of training could completely eliminate accidents. Kel'Era still carried the memory of her childhood friend who had stumbled against her during a learning exercise. The medical team couldn't reach him in time. After that incident, Kel'Era had dedicated herself to finding a solution, a way to neutralize the toxin her species produced. It had led her far from home, first to the Galactic Science Academy, and then to this isolated research station where she could work without endangering others. "Incoming transmission," Araya announced, breaking her reverie. "Emergency frequency." "Put it through," Kel'Era said, turning from the viewport. Static crackled before a distressed voice emerged. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Captain Reeves of the GTC Horizon. We've sustained critical damage from the ion storm. Life support failing. Requesting emergency docking at any available facility." Kel'Era felt her secondary heart accelerate. The GTC Horizon was a human transport vessel. "If they docked here," Dr. Kel'Era, Araya prompted. "The Horizon has 23 crew members aboard. Their systems will fail completely within 2 hours." The Nexeri scientist closed her eyes briefly. "Acknowledge their request, Araya. Begin preparation for emergency quarantine protocols. I'll need to seal off the east wing for my personal quarters and laboratory. Direct them to use only the designated safe zones." "Understood, Doctor. Should I inform them of the containment requirements?" "Yes. Send the full biological hazard briefing." Kel'Era moved swiftly toward her quarters. "And ARIA, activate all additional safety measures. No exceptions." As she prepared for the arrival of human visitors, Kel'Era felt the familiar weight of isolation pressing down on her more heavily than usual. The station, which had been her sanctuary, would now become a prison within a prison. Every corridor she frequented would need to be avoided. Every surface she touched would require decontamination. 2 hours later, the docking clamps engaged with a reverberation that traveled through the station's structure. Kel'Era stood at the sealed entrance to her laboratory, watching through a monitor as the airlock cycled, and the crew of the Horizon stumbled into the main hangar. They looked exhausted, some injured, all wearing expressions of relief at finding sanctuary from the deadly storm. One figure caught her attention immediately, a tall human with commander insignia who surveyed the station with keen eyes. Unlike the others, his stance remained alert, shoulders straight despite obvious fatigue. "I am Captain James Reeves," he announced, addressing the nearest communication panel. "Request permission to speak with the station administrator." "Greetings, Captain," Kellera responded through the intercom. "I am Dr. Kellera, senior researcher and current administrator of Epsilon 9. Your crew is welcome to utilize all green designated areas during your stay. Red zones are strictly off limits due to biological containment protocols." The captain's eyes narrowed as he looked toward the camera. "Thank you for your assistance, Doctor. I understand this is a research facility. May I ask the nature of your work?" "Xenobiological research," she replied, deliberately vague. "ARIA will guide your crew to appropriate quarters and medical facilities. I've authorized emergency supplies for your use." She observed as the humans began organizing themselves, helping the injured toward the medical bay. The captain remained focused on the camera. "We would appreciate meeting our host in person, Doctor. Standard protocol." "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Captain," Kellera said firmly. "My species presents a severe biological hazard to humans. For your safety, I must maintain isolation protocols." A new voice interrupted. The tall commander she had noticed earlier stepped forward. "Nexeri, correct. I'm Commander Marcus Riley, xenobiology specialist. I studied your species' biochemistry extensively." Kellera's tendrils fluttered in surprise. Few humans had any knowledge of her kind beyond fearful rumors. "Then you understand the risks, Commander," she responded. "I understand the precautions necessary," he countered. "And I may be able to assist with your research during our stay. A fair exchange for your hospitality." Captain Reeves gave his officer a curious look but didn't contradict him. "That's an unexpected offer," Kellera admitted, "but not unwelcome. We can discuss possibilities once your crew is settled." As the humans dispersed to their assigned areas, Kellera remained watching Commander Riley. He moved with a deliberate precision that reminded her of her own careful movements, someone accustomed to navigating spaces where a misstep could have consequences. Later, after confirming all visitors were contained in safe zones, Kellera allowed herself to relax marginally. She returned to her research, but found her concentration broken by thoughts of the human commander who claimed knowledge of her species. "ARIA. Access files on Commander Marcus Riley of the GTC Horizon," she requested. The AI displayed a personnel file on her screen. Commander Marcus Riley, age 38, had an impressive record of xenobiological research and first contact scenarios. Several of his published papers were on biochemical defense mechanisms in sentient species. Her attention was drawn to a particular notation: specialized training in hazardous biological environments. Certified for interaction with Class 4 toxic species. Interesting. The humans had classifications for beings like her. An alert from the station's security system interrupted her reading. "Motion detected in restricted zone C7, ARIA announced. Unauthorized access attempt to primary research storage." Kellera straightened. "Show me surveillance." The screen switched to security feed, but the image was distorted. Someone had tampered with the cameras. All she could make out was a shadowy figure moving near her secure samples. "Security breach," she told ARIA sharply. "Initiate containment lockdown in Section C." The station's alarms activated, bathing the corridors in pulsing red light. As Kellera watched the security feeds anxiously, she saw members of the Horizon's crew rushing to their assigned safety areas. All except Commander Riley, who was moving with purpose toward the compromised section. What was he doing? Heading directly into danger, or toward something else entirely? "Commander Riley," she called through the communication system. "You're approaching a restricted area during a security alert. Please return to your designated zone immediately." His voice came back clear and determined. "I spotted an intruder heading this way. Not one of ours. Someone was already aboard your station before we arrived." Kel'Era felt a cold sensation spreading through her body that had nothing to do with her natural biochemistry. If the commander was telling the truth, it meant someone had managed to breach her station's security without detection. "The section is sealing in 30 seconds, she warned him. "You need to evacuate now." "Almost got a visual on the intruder," Riley responded, his breathing heavier as he clearly ran through the corridor. "They're accessing your—" His transmission cut off as an explosion rocked the station, throwing Kel'Era against her laboratory wall. Emergency containment shields slammed down throughout the facility as atmosphere warnings blared. "Hull breach in Section C7, Araya reported. Containment holding. Life signs detected. 2 individuals still present in the compromised section. 2 life signs. Commander Riley and whoever he had been pursuing. Both now trapped in a damaged section of the station with failing life support." Kel'Era made her decision instantly. "Araya, prepare my environmental suit. I need to reach Section C7. Release a measured dose of neutralizing agents to manage the constant secretion of neurotoxins from her skin." 3 intruders, she noted. "More than we anticipated." Riley nodded grimly. "And likely well armed. We'll need to approach carefully." They paused at a junction, the passage ahead opening into a larger maintenance hub, a circular chamber where various systems could be accessed and monitored. The scanner showed their targets were inside. "I recognize this area," Kel'Era whispered. "It has direct data access to the primary research servers. From here, they could bypass most of the security protocols." Riley studied the layout on his scanner. 2 points of entry. "We could split up, approach from different angles." "Too risky," she countered. "If my suit becomes compromised, you could be exposed." He considered this, then nodded. "Together, then. I'll take point." As they prepared to move, Kel'Era placed a gloved hand lightly on his arm. The first time she had initiated contact. "Commander, before we proceed, there's something about my research you should know." The seriousness in her tone made Riley give her his full attention. "The neutralization compound I've been developing has implications beyond allowing my species to touch others safely," she continued. "It has shown remarkable efficacy against multiple neurodegenerative diseases, including ones that have plagued humans." Riley's eyes widened slightly. "Such as?" "Including Verlaine syndrome." The name struck Riley like a physical blow. Verlaine syndrome, a devastating neurological disease that had emerged in human colonies 20 years ago, with a near-complete mortality rate. A disease that had taken his father after years of suffering. "You've developed a potential treatment for Verlaine?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "More than a treatment. In simulations, it appears to reverse the neural damage completely." Her iridescent eyes held his gaze steadily. "That's likely what our intruders are after. Not a weapon, but a cure." The revelation shifted Riley's understanding of the entire situation. No wonder someone had gone to such lengths to obtain her research. A cure for Verlaine would be worth billions, and would save countless lives. "Why keep this secret?" he asked. "Because it's not yet proven in clinical applications," she explained. "And because pharmaceutical corporations have already attempted to acquire my research through less dramatic means. I refuse to release it until I could ensure it would be available to all who need it, not just those who could afford it." Riley processed this information quickly, professional training taking precedence over personal feelings. "This changes the stakes, but not our immediate objective. We still need to stop them." Kel'Era nodded, accepting his focus. Together, they moved toward the entrance to the maintenance hub, neural disruptors ready. The scene that greeted them as they peered into the chamber was not what they expected. 3 figures were indeed present, 2 standing guard while a third worked at a data terminal. But they weren't wearing the stealth suits Riley had glimpsed earlier. Instead, they wore the unmistakable insignia of Galactic military intelligence. Riley felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He knew that division. Black operations, specializing in acquisition of technologies deemed crucial to human interests. By any means necessary. "Commander Riley," Kellara whispered, confusion evident in her voice. "Those are your people." "Not mine," he corrected grimly. "A division I've had conflicts with before." Before they could retreat, one of the guards turned, spotting their movement at the entrance. "Intruders," he shouted, raising his weapon. What followed was a blur of action. Riley pushed Kellara behind cover as energy blasts scorched the wall where they had been standing. He returned fire with the neural disruptor, catching one guard in the shoulder and sending him crumpling to the floor. "Stand down, Commander Riley," called a voice he recognized. "You're interfering with a sanctioned operation." "Colonel Vega," Riley replied, keeping his position behind the metallic barrier. "Funny, I wasn't briefed on any operation involving attack on a civilian research station." "Need to know basis," the colonel responded. "Now lower your weapon and step aside. We're acquiring assets vital to galactic security." Riley exchanged a glance with Kellara, who had moved to a position where she could access a secondary terminal. She nodded slightly, fingers moving rapidly as she worked to counter whatever the infiltration team was doing. "You mean you're stealing Dr. Kellara's research?" Riley called back, keeping their attention on him. "Research that could cure Verlaine syndrome." A pause. "The research has multiple applications, Commander, some of which are classified." "Weaponization," Riley stated flatly. "You want to turn a medical breakthrough into a bioweapon." She hesitated, then entered the override code. The energy barrier between them disappeared with a soft hum. For the first time, nothing separated them but her containment suit, a single layer of advanced material between life and death. "I'll help you walk," she said, approaching cautiously. "Try not to put pressure on my back or joints where the suit might strain." Riley nodded, allowing her to support his uninjured side. Even through the suit, he could feel the unusual coolness of her body temperature, a biological feature that helped stabilize the potent neurotoxin her species produced. They moved slowly through the damaged corridor, each acutely aware of the other's proximity. For Riley, it was a calculated risk based on training and necessity. For Kellara, it was unprecedented, the closest she had been to another living being in years without thick barriers between them. "How did you come to specialize in Nixari biology?" she asked as they navigated around a fallen support beam. "We're not exactly a common species to encounter. My mother was part of the diplomatic team that established first contact with your homeworld," Riley explained. "She was fascinated by your culture's adaptation to your biological condition. She used to tell me stories about the Nixari cities with their intricate architecture designed to prevent accidental contact." "Your mother was Dr. Elena Riley." Kellara's voice held surprise. "She was one of the few humans who truly sought to understand us rather than just study our toxin." Riley nodded. "She inspired my career choice. I wanted to continue building bridges between species that others considered too dangerous to approach." They reached a sealed door marked with biohazard symbols, the entrance to Kellara's main laboratory. She placed her gloved hand on the scanner, and the door slid open to reveal a space that perfectly reflected its occupant. Meticulously organized, with multiple layers of safety systems, yet surprisingly beautiful in its design. "This way," she directed, helping him to a medical station. "I can treat your injuries before we attempt to contact the others." As she gathered supplies, Riley took the opportunity to study the laboratory. Holographic displays showed complex molecular structures rotating slowly above research stations. Specialized equipment he recognized as toxin analyzers hummed quietly. But what caught his attention most were the personal touches, rare in most research facilities. Artistic renderings of underwater scenes decorated the walls, and a small collection of crystalline sculptures sat on a shelf near what appeared to be living quarters. "You've made this place your home," he observed. Kellara paused in her preparations. "When you cannot touch the world, you must create your own world to touch you." The statement, so simple yet profound, offered Riley a glimpse into her existence that no research paper could have provided. She approached with medical equipment designed for human physiology. "I'll need to reset your shoulder. This will be painful." Riley braced himself. Go ahead. Her movements were precise and clinical as she manipulated his injured shoulder, the suit's gloves providing enough dexterity for the delicate procedure. A sharp movement and excruciating pain later, his shoulder was back in its socket. Thank you, he managed through gritted teeth as she applied a stabilizing feel to the area. You have an unusual pain tolerance, she remarked, scanning his ribs next. Necessary in my line of work. He watched as she read the scanner results. How bad? 2 fractures, but not severely displaced. She applied another medical field that would accelerate healing while stabilizing the bones. You were fortunate. As she worked, an alert sounded from one of her research stations. Both of them turned to see a security notification flashing on the screen. Someone's trying to access the main research database, Keller said, moving quickly to the console. They're using high-level encryption to bypass the security protocols. Riley pushed himself up, ignoring the pain. Can you lock them out? I'm trying. But they're already in the system. Her fingers moved rapidly over the interface. They're attempting to download my research on toxin neutralization. Riley joined her at the console, watching as she engaged in a virtual battle with the intruder. Is there a way to trace their location? Yes, but I need to maintain my focus on preventing the download. She glanced at him. The tracking program is on the adjacent console. Can you activate it? Riley moved to the second workstation, quickly familiarizing himself with the unfamiliar interface. Got it. Running trace protocol now. They worked in synchronized tension, each focused on their task, yet acutely aware of the other's proximity. For those moments, the danger of Kellera's biology became secondary to the immediate threat. Download blocked, she announced finally. They only managed to access preliminary research data. I've traced the access point, Riley added. They're in the maintenance tunnels beneath the primary reactor. Kellera's expression turned grave. If they sabotage the reactor while the station's systems are already compromised, we need to alert your security and my crew immediately. Riley finished. She nodded, moving to the communications array. This system can bypass the damaged network, but it has limited range. We'll need to boost the signal. As they worked to establish communication, Riley found himself studying Kellera with growing respect. Despite years of isolation, she maintained both scientific precision and emotional resilience. Her caution around him wasn't born of fear, but of responsibility, an unwillingness to risk harm to another. Signal established, she announced. Channel open to both station security and the Horizon crew. This is Commander Riley. He spoke into the communication system. Station has been infiltrated by unknown hostiles. Possible sabotage attempt underway at the primary reactor. Request immediate security response. Captain Reeves' voice came through, distorted but recognizable. Commander, we've been trying to locate you. What's your situation? I'm with Dr. Kellera in her laboratory. Injured but stable. We've identified the intruder's location and blocked an attempt to steal research data. Security teams are responding to multiple disturbances across the station, Reeves reported. It appears we're dealing with more than one infiltrator. Kellera exchanged a concerned glance with Riley. A coordinated attack. Most likely. Riley turned back to the communication. Captain, we need to secure the reactor. If they're planning sabotage. An explosion interrupted him, the shock wave traveling through the station's structure. Emergency alarms activated immediately. Reactor containment breach detected, Araya announced, the AI's voice calm despite the dire warning. Initiating emergency protocols. All personnel proceed to evacuation points. Kellera's tendrils twisted in distress. They're going to destroy the station. No, Riley corrected grimly. They're creating a diversion. The reactor breach is likely controlled, enough to trigger evacuation but not immediate destruction. They want your research, not a destroyed station. Either way, we need to evacuate, she insisted. Riley shook his head. That's what they're counting on. While everyone rushes to escape pods, They'll have clear access to your complete research database. Their eyes met through her helmet visor, a moment of silent communication passing between them. You want to stop them instead of evacuating, she stated. Yes, but I won't ask you to risk your life. This is my mission, not yours. Kel-Era was quiet for a moment, her tendrils moving in what Riley now recognized as deep thought. Then she moved to a secured cabinet and began removing equipment. What are you doing? He asked. Preparing. She handed him a specialized sidearm. This is a non-lethal neural disruptor. It will incapacitate most humanoid species without permanent damage. She continued gathering equipment, including what appeared to be a portable version of her research database. You're coming with me, Riley realized. This research is my life's work, she said simply. And this station has been my home for 2 years. I won't abandon either without a fight. As they prepared to confront the intruders, Riley found himself remarkably unconcerned about the toxic being beside him. Somehow, in the midst of crisis, they had forged a connection that transcended the physical barrier between them. A connection based on mutual respect and shared purpose. For the first time in her adult life, Kel-Era was no longer alone. And for Riley, the mission had become something more personal than a simple intelligence operation. Together, they moved toward the maintenance tunnels, each step bringing them closer to danger and to a deeper understanding of what it meant to trust someone you couldn't touch. Revelation. The maintenance tunnels beneath Research Station Epsilon 9 were never designed for comfort. Narrow passages intended for repair drones and occasional maintenance workers now held 2 figures moving carefully through the dim emergency lighting. One human, one Nixari, both focused on the same objective. The reactor breach was contained to a single cooling section, Kel-Era explained as they navigated the cramped space. It's serious enough to trigger evacuation protocols, but not immediately catastrophic. Just as I suspected, Riley replied, checking the portable scanner he carried. A distraction, not destruction. We're getting closer to their position. 3 life signs approximately 50 meters ahead. Kel-Era's containment suit made soft hissing sounds as its systems worked to maintain the barrier between her toxic epidermis and the outside world. Every few minutes, it would. As she sealed herself into the reinforced containment suit, the only thing standing between her lethal biology and the outside world, Kel-Era couldn't help wondering what the intruder had been after in her research storage, and why Commander Riley had been so quick to pursue them. For the first time in years, she would be in close proximity to others, separated only by a thin layer of specialized material. The thought filled her with both terror and a strange, forbidden excitement. The isolation that had defined her existence was about to be broken, one way or another. Connection. Commander Marcus Riley had faced death before. Shipwrecks, firefights with pirates, even a close encounter with the vacuum of space. But never had he been trapped in a room with someone whose very touch could kill him. The irony wasn't lost on him. The emergency containment shield shimmered between them, separating the corridor where he lay from the section where Dr. Kel-Era worked frantically to stabilize the damaged life support systems. Her containment suit was a marvel of engineering, form-fitting yet reinforced in critical areas, completely sealing her toxic skin away from the environment. The oxygen recyclers are back online, she announced, her voice only slightly distorted through the suit's communication system. We have approximately 6 hours before the backup systems fail. Riley nodded, wincing as the movement aggravated his injured shoulder. Any luck contacting the rest of my crew? Communications are still down in this section. Her iridescent eyes met his through the transparent face shield of her helmet. How badly are you injured, Commander? Dislocated shoulder, possibly some cracked ribs. Nothing immediately life-threatening. He managed to pull himself to a sitting position against the wall. Did you get a look at who attacked us? Only briefly. Humanoid, wearing a stealth suit with scrambling technology. They've either escaped or are hiding elsewhere on the station. She tilted her head, tendrils moving gently within her helmet. You said they were not from your crew. How can you be certain? Riley's expression hardened, Because I watched them sabotage our ship before the ion storm hit. That's what really damaged the horizon, not the storm. Someone wanted us to make an emergency stop at this particular station. Kelera's tendrils stilled, a reaction Riley recognized as the Nix-Airy equivalent of shock. You believe your ship was deliberately disabled to create an excuse to board my research station? Yes. The question is why? Riley gestured toward the research storage area. What are you working on that's valuable enough for this kind of operation? She was silent for a long moment, clearly weighing how much to divulge. Finally, she spoke. I've been researching a neutralization method for the toxin my species produces. If successful, it could allow the Nix-Airy to interact with other species without risk. That's groundbreaking work, Riley said, genuine admiration in his voice. But would it justify this level of infiltration? Possibly. The applications extend beyond my species. She moved to a nearby console, bringing up a series of molecular diagrams. The neurotoxin has unique properties that could revolutionize both medical treatments and biological weapons. Riley understood immediately, making it valuable to both humanitarian and military interests. Precisely. Kelera turned back to him. Now I need to ask you something, Commander. You pursued the intruder alone, without alerting your captain. Why? It was Riley's turn to carefully consider his response. I'm not just a xenobiologist. I also work for Galactic Intelligence. We've been tracking a group that specializes in stealing advanced biological research. When our ship was sabotaged, I suspected their involvement. Kelera's eyes narrowed slightly. So you used your crew's emergency as cover for your own mission. I didn't sabotage our ship, Riley clarified firmly. But yes, I took advantage of the situation to investigate. My primary mission is to prevent dangerous biotech from falling into the wrong hands. The admission hung between them, neither fully trusting the other, yet both recognizing they needed to cooperate to survive. We need to reach my laboratory, Kelera finally said. I have equipment there that can bypass the damaged communication system and contact both your crew and station security. And I need to get to the intruder before they make another attempt at your research, Riley added. He tried to stand, grimacing with the effort. Kelera moved toward the containment shield. I'll have to lower this barrier to reach you. My suit is intact, but any tear or puncture would expose you to the toxin. Understood. Riley steeled himself. I've been trained for hazardous biological contact scenarios. I know the protocols. No answer came, confirming his suspicion. Instead, the second guard began moving to flank their position. Almost done, Kelera whispered, still working at the terminal. Riley provided covering fire, forcing the approaching guard back. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. Done, she announced, just as the lights in the chamber suddenly went out, plunging them into darkness. Emergency lights kicked on seconds later, bathing the room in a red glow. But something had changed. The infiltration team was now locked behind a containment field, separated from both the terminal and their exit. Station security override, Kelera explained, satisfaction evident in her voice. I've isolated them and purged their data transfer. Colonel Vega slammed a fist against the transparent barrier. You have no authority to interfere with this operation, Commander Riley. I'll have you court-martialed for this. I'm preventing the illegal seizure of civilian research, Riley countered, moving from cover now that the immediate danger had passed. And I'm quite certain my superiors will be interested to learn about an unsanctioned Black Ops mission on a neutral research station. The colonel's face hardened. This isn't over. For now, it is. Riley turned to Kelera. We should contact station security and my captain. As they moved to the main terminal, an alarm suddenly blared through the station's communication system. Alert. Reactor containment failure imminent. Complete station evacuation required. 12 minutes to critical failure. Kelera's tendrils twisted in alarm. They must have done more damage than we realized. Or they had a backup plan, Riley suggested, glaring at the colonel, who now wore a smug expression despite his containment. You think we came without contingencies, Commander? Vega said. The reactor will melt down. Either release us, or we all die together. Riley ignored him, turning to Kelleria. Can you stop it from here? She was already working at the terminal. No, the override has to be done from the reactor control room. But I can access the station's evacuation protocols, get everyone to safety. Alert all personnel to evacuate immediately, Riley instructed. Then we need to get to the reactor control. That's suicide, Vega called. You'll never reach it in time, let alone stop the meltdown. What about them? Kelleria asked, gesturing to the contained infiltrators. Riley considered for only a moment. Release the containment field. They can evacuate with everyone else. As Kelleria deactivated the field, Riley addressed the colonel directly. I'm giving you a chance to survive. I suggest you take it. Vega hesitated, clearly torn between completing his mission and saving his team. Finally, he nodded to his remaining conscious guard. Grab Peters. We're evacuating. As they collected their unconscious comrade, Vega turned back to Riley. This isn't over, Commander. It never is with your division, Riley replied evenly. After the infiltrators departed toward the evacuation points, Riley and Kelleria hurried in the opposite direction, toward the damaged reactor. 10 minutes remaining until critical reactor failure, HFY announced as they emerged from the maintenance tunnels into a corridor already showing signs of the emergency. Flickering lights, emergency barriers deployed at intervals, and the distant sound of evacuation proceedings. The reactor control room is 2 levels down, Kelleria said as they ran. If we can reach it, I might be able to initiate an emergency shutdown. Might? Riley questioned, keeping pace with her despite his injured ribs protesting each movement. The system wasn't designed to recover from this kind of sabotage, she admitted. But I've made certain modifications to HFY over the past 2 years. Contingencies. They reached a sealed emergency door. Beyond it, the corridor showed visible damage from the initial explosion. Warning lights indicated dangerous radiation levels. My suit will protect me, Kelleria said, noting Riley's concern. But you'll need this. She removed a small device from her equipment belt and handed it to him. Radiation shield. Temporary, but effective. Riley activated the device, which created a shimmering field around him. How long will it last? Long enough, if we hurry. The next section of their journey was treacherous. Damaged flooring, exposed conduits sparking dangerously, and increasing heat as they neared the reactor level. Throughout it all, HFY continued the methodical countdown to destruction. 8 minutes to critical reactor failure. They passed several maintenance drones attempting emergency repairs, their efforts clearly inadequate for the scale of damage. Did everyone evacuate? Riley asked as they descended an emergency ladder to the reactor level, the main lifts having been automatically disabled. According to station logs, all personnel are either at or en route to evacuation points. Kelleria confirmed.